na eneo la tukio vile ni marufuku kwa sasa kwa sababu za kiusalama, ili kupata kuhakikishia wewe usalama wako na pia usalama wa operesheni nzima ambayo inaendelea kwa nia ya kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna yeyote ambaye anajeruhiwa au anaathirika katika tukio hilo ambalo limetokea pale. Kaltuni, nimeona ukitazama mitandao ya kijamii, sijui wananchi wanasema nini kwa sasa kuhusiana na yale ambayo yanajiri.
Kuna mmoja hapa anasema kwamba usimpigie ama usijaribu kumpigia mtu yoyote katika maeneo hayo kwa sababu za kiusalama, unaweza tu kutuma ujumbe mfupi. Kuna mwingine pia anasema ewe Mwenyezi Mungu aweze kuwalinda wote ambao wameweza kupatikana katika hali hiyo tatanishi katika eneo la hoteli hiyo ama katika maeneo ya 14 Riverside. Anasema mwingine pia anatuma maombi kwa wale wote ambao wamejipata katika hali hiyo. Ni baadhi tu ya maoni kutoka kwa watazamaji ama kutoka kwa Kenya kwa ujumla. Hali ilivyo kwa sasa, maafisa wa usalama wanahakikisha kwamba hali imedhibitiwa katika eneo hilo kikiongozwa na kikosi kizima cha reke. Tunaweza kuona baadhi ya watu wametolewa katika majumba eneo hilo kuhakikisha kwamba usalama wao umehakikishwa. Pia tumeweza kuona sijui Dan, kuna picha ambazo tulikuwa nimeziona hapo awali. Kuna watu ambao labda wale ambao wanadhibiti silaha, wale ambao wako license, tuweza kuona kwamba wako katika harakati kusaidia maafisa wa polisi kuhakikisha kwamba usalama ama kuhakikisha usalama wa wale wote ambao wako katika majengo hayo. Ni mwingine tu hapa ambaye anasema nawatakia wale wote ambao wanaenda katika eneo hilo kuhakikisha kwamba wamebeba kitambulisho chao au kile cha usafiri au pasipoti. Anasema hali hatihati bado inaendelea katika eneo hilo, lakini tuweza kumuona tuliweza kuzungumza na mwenzetu pale Vincent, aliweza kusema kwamba hali imeweza kudhibitiwa kwa njia moja au nyingine.
Naam, ndivyo hivyo basi, picha hizo unazoona hali ilivyo kwa sasa pale 14 Riverside, kama unavyoona milio ya risasi ilipata kusikika takriban dakika chache tu hivi baada ya saa 9 alasiri, na maafisa wa polisi wakapata kufika pale, wanaendelea kujaribu kubainisha haswa nini ambacho kinatokea. Utakumbuka kwamba Kaltun, mambo kama haya, mavisa kama hivi kutokea katika maeneo ya majumba kama haya ni masuala ambayo sio mara ya kwanza kutokea. Maana utakumbuka pale Buruburu, japo ilikuwa ni katika jumba la makazi, kumwahi kuwa na shambulio ambapo mtu alikuwa anapiga risasi pale nyumbani. Maafisa wa polisi kitengo cha reke wakafika na wakapata kumdhibiti hali, na ndivyo inatarajiwa hapo kwamba watapata kudhibiti hali. Wapo wale wa kitengo hicho, manake wote ni chini ya GSU, lakini hawa ni kile kitengo maalum cha reke ambao hudhibiti hali ambazo huwa ni ngumu zaidi, na ndio ambao wanaongoza operesheni hii kama tulivyofahamishwa hapo awali, wakiwepo wakubwa wao katika eneo hilo. Kwa hivyo pilika za hali ilivyo hapa, mtazamaji, hali kama hiyo si hali rahisi, mtu ajui aende wapi, elekea upande gani ndio salama. Lakini maafisa
3, 4. All right, we interrupt normal programming to bring you an update of something a grisly attack that has happened in Nairobi, Kenya. Of course, what you see on your screen, that is a live feed from our sister station in Kenya, NTV Kenya. We understand so far, it's a developing story, but what we know so far is that there's a suspected terror attack in an area where Westlands. Westlands is the place that has for a very long time been notorious of these attacks. The most prominent before this one was in 2013, where we did see the Al-Shabaab attack that place, and about 71 persons died. But today, the attack currently, of course, is in the Westlands neighborhood, but at a hotel called Dusit Hotel, that is on 14 Riverside. According to eyewitnesses, we understand that some vehicles stormed the hotel premises, and then attackers and eyewitnesses put the attackers' number to about 6 of them. And they stormed the hotel, and we understand they got into the dining area and they just began to spray bullets. Currently, so far, according to the official records, we understand 3 people have been confirmed dead, but the death toll is most probably going to keep rising based on the information that we are hearing as of now. Of course, Kenyan Police has cordoned off the place. They're trying to get a number of folks out of that place, the hotel, as you can see. These are live pictures that are coming in from Kenya. People scampering, of course, for their lives, trying to get a good understanding of what's happening. Ambulances, as you can see, are trying to evacuate a couple of people, and we are trying to see how this develops. We understand commandos have been deployed in this very place to try and salvage the situation such that they don't get to see as many deaths as they are aware, especially if they are to juxtapose this against what happened in 2013. There are emergency efforts to try and treat the injured. Of course, there are some folks that have died, but a number of others have gotten injured in this melee. And in a very short while, I'll be speaking to one of my colleagues in Kenya to just bring us up to speed with the happenings there. Security there, of course, trying to stop the media from covering what's going on there. But we are doing everything we can to see what's going on. They are frisking and searching everybody that is trying to access that place. Of course, we know that after this information began to get onto social media, folks that either know about somebody or a relative or a loved one, a friend, or whatever the case might be that was within this area, they're obviously panicking and they're trying to get a good understanding what's happening. Our loved ones, all right. A very panicky situation it is in Nairobi, Kenya. Kenya has, for quite a bit of time, been under the threat of the Al-Shabaab. That's especially after Kenya deployed peacekeepers in Somalia. Al-Shabaab was against this, and they said, well, we'll keep taking you on. And unfortunately, we have seen a number of Kenyans over the years lose their lives. There had been a lull, if you like. There had been a lengthy period without any attack, and the assumption was that these guys had been nipped in the bud. If you remember, there was a meeting between our president and the Kenyan president, and these leaders were saying Al-Shabaab has been dealt with. Al-Shabaab has been nipped in the bud, and that is why there was, for a very long time, tranquility, if you like. But with this happening today, of course, questions now are beginning to rise. Was Al-Shabaab nipped in the bud, as the leaders were saying? Are we seeing a return of the grisly attacks of Al-Shabaab? So,
kwamba yameteketea uokozi ambao unaendelea katika eneo hilo kuhakikisha kwamba kila mmoja yupo salama.
All right, I was saying earlier on that normally the way Al-Shabaab operates, they celebrate anniversaries, either of their previous attacks and so on, and the way they celebrate is with similar attacks. And we understand that the Al-Shabaab, if of course we don't have clear information that official, records that this should be Al-Shabaab, but if it looks like a goat, walks like a goat, sounds like one, it most probably is a goat. So every gun is pointing at the Al-Shabaab. But we understand that on the 15th of January 2016, the Battle of El Ade took place, and the assumption is that the Al-Shabaab are, commemorating this. But also, Al-Shabaab militants launched an attack on a Kenyan-run AMISOM army base in the town of El Ade. That was on January 15th, 2016. 2 years ago exactly today. Of course, that remains the deadliest attack on the AMISOM peace support mission to Somalia, and on the Kenyan Defense Forces, if you like, the largest defeat since independence in 1963. Of course, the Kenyan government, as a result of this, has gone to extreme lengths to try and conceal the extent of its losses, as would expected. Many times when a government or police, for example, gives you official records, chances are high it could be higher. And of course, there's humanitarian agencies that operate in Somalia, and many times they provide to the media outcomes that are totally different from the official records from government and so on. But that's the deadliest attack on AMISOM that ever happened, 2016, the Battle of El Ade. And we understand that most probably the Al-Shabaab are commemorating that. They wanted to have a repeat of that. This time, not in Somalia, but on Kenyan soil. And that's the story we are seeing developing there. Of course, this has been described as a military massacre or disaster, if you like, the largest military defeat in Kenyan history. That was 2 years ago, 2016, on Somali ground, 15th January, exactly 2 years today. And then, like I was saying, the way Al-Shabaab does operate, they normally commemorate. When there's an attack, they want to have a repeat of that as they celebrate. Unfortunately, this is their way of doing things. But of course, Kenyan Police and other security agencies have deployed, and they say they're trying to contain the situation in Kenya. We are trying to see how that develops. A number of people are still being evacuated. Some are injured. There have been some deaths. So far, the confirmed number of dead people is 3. That's the latest that we did get, but as you can expect, the number unfortunately might rise. We hope it doesn't, but normally the way these things happen, because we understand, according to eyewitnesses, when these armed gunmen got into the hotel, they just began to spray bullets all over the place. So chances are very high there could be some other people that lost their lives, but we are yet to get that information. But this is the developing story coming in from Nairobi at a hotel called Dusit Hotel, that is on 14 Riverside in the Westland neighborhood, a neighborhood that has been dogged with attacks by Al-Shabaab for quite a bit of time. So this, if you ask, is not very new to them, but they had thought things were all right after an assurance by the Kenyan government, and ours too. Our president has said severally that the Al-Shabaab had been dealt a heavy blow. They were nipped in the bud, and that's why they was quiet for a while. If you remember that Uganda did suffer attacks such as this, of course that's after we deployed in Somalia, and we remember that very grisly, unfortunate incident that happened at Chadondo Rugby Grounds and Ethiopian Village Restaurant. And Ugandans recollect that, especially those that were affected directly, those that lost loved ones, and so on and so forth. But we had kind of moved on. And Kenya, even though it has had a lot more attacks than Uganda, it had moved on. But seeing this, we are waiting to see what gets to come out of this. Of course, the Al-Shabaab, normally after an attack such as this, they come out and they claim responsibility. They have not yet done so, but everything seems to point to the Al-Shabaab. Their modus operandi, the way they operate, but also given that for a while they've really had their guns pointed at Kenya. But also, with specificity, like I was saying, today marks exactly 2 years, 15th of January 2016. Al-Shabaab militants launched an attack on a Kenyan-run AMISOM base in the town of El Ade, that is in Somalia. And so the most plausible expectation is that Al-Shabaab was celebrating this second year anniversary of this attack, and they wanted to launch another attack. And of course, the other thing you ought to take note of is that many times when these guys are attacking, they want to attack in places where the heat will be felt the most, where there will be a ripple effect, if you like. And so many times they'll go to affluent neighborhoods where they know a couple of a bit influential people, whatever the case might be. And so Westlands is one of those areas, and that is why it seems to be getting a hitting every so often. And they normally want to hit hardest, which is unfortunate. And so we are seeing Westlands suffering this. We are keeping tabs with this developing story coming from Nairobi in the Westlands neighborhood, a hotel called Dusit Hotel on 14 Riverside. Like I did say, we are trying to get in touch with our colleagues in Nairobi, Kenya, to just bring us up to speed with the latest from there. And we see how things develop. But for now, let's just cross over and listen to what's going on there. Hopefully we'll be able to get some latest.
Kupitia lugha ya Kimombo.
Thank you very much, Daniel Mule and Kaltun Jama, of course, for the hour-long coverage that you have given us since the attack that came right after 3 o'clock this afternoon. And yes, as we have been following, this is a developing story. Smriti and I are now joining you and in the coverage to continue getting details as the story develops on the ground. As you can see, there's a lot of confusion on the ground, Smriti.
There is, but what you are seeing on your screens are civilians being evacuated from the compound that is 14 Riverside Drive, where the Dusit Hotel is situated. There are, of course, other offices there, and what you are seeing are plenty of activity, police on the ground, also emergency services, the Red Cross, GSU as well, and anyone who has been in those buildings. There are attempts to try evacuate them at the moment. It has been around 2 hours now that this situation has been ongoing. As you can see, explosion and gunfire was heard at the building along Riverside Drive, that is 14 Riverside Drive. We are waiting for more accurate information as to exactly what happened there, but at the moment what we can tell you is that there has been gunfire this afternoon, and we have witnessed cars ablaze as well. But as I say, we are waiting for more accurate information.
And the response, at least from what we saw on the ground with our reporters that have been there, is that, of course, the men in uniform were not quick to respond at that moment, but we started seeing them around 4:15 thereabouts on the ground, and there has been some heavy deployment of security forces from different commands. And yes, you also can see some civilians who are armed, and this being Westlands, in many communities there that are well organized in terms of security, and that is himself Mr. Kinoti, who is leading this particular operation as different commands are in. You've seen the Recce squad, of course, are in operation, and they actually have gotten into the perimeter of this building, the building being Dusit Hotel and on Riverside Drive in Westlands. And as you can understand, if you know anyone who usually would use that route as they head home or to work, it is good to advise them, and the police have actually warned those people who are normally in that area or would want to use that area to stay away as this operation continues. It is good to give them space. It is still fluid. We do not know whether those who have been behind the sustained gunfire have been totally neutralized, and until that is declared so by the officials there, the security officials, it is safe to stay away. That at least is the only word we've gotten from the police.
And in case you're not sure of the exact location of this compound, as we said, it is located on Riverside Drive. Riverside Drive comes off Waiyaki Way. It is a fairly upmarket area. It houses plenty of residences and ambassadorial homes as well, plus a number of offices and restaurants as well. The compound itself hosts the very upmarket Dusit Hotel, as we said, and in that compound there are several offices located there as well. So just to give you some context as to the location that we're talking about, it is in the Westlands location of the capital city, Nairobi. And again, on those screens, heavily armed personnel there. What is happening at the moment is that civilians are being evacuated from the building, and of course the police have been deployed. This incident took place at around 3:15 or thereabouts this afternoon, and it started off with reports being released of gunshots being heard and explosions being heard at the compound, and then there were some videos being put out on social media of a building on fire. Of course, a lot of smoke could be seen as well, and that then led us to this story that it has been confirmed that gunshots and also explosions did take place. We are yet to find out the exact details.
Yes.
There is allegedly a situation where there could possibly have been a suicide bomber, according to some unverified reports that we have been receiving.
And it's good you say unverified, because at this point many versions of the story will come out, and it's good to go with an official account of what is happening. But as it develops, Smriti, there are some of the witnesses who have spoken to the various news outlets. As you can expect, different news media houses have deployed there as well as they try to cover this, but very safely so. And they have spoken earlier to some of the other stations, such as the international stations such as BBC, and gave this account a bit earlier.
Hapo kando ilikuwa tint na imekuwa ikikuja. Sasa venye iliingia tu hivi tulisikia boom, kitu kama bomb. Immediately then risasi. Sasa watu walilala chini. Sasa mtu hatujui nini inaendelea huko ndani.
Ulisema ulikuwa unaona watu wakiwa wakikuja hapa kwa ile siku zilizo.
Nimeona siku kama 3.
Kama ngapi?
Alikuja siku ya kwanza akaniambia nimwangalie gari. Alikuwa peke yake mtu mmoja. Akaingia to seat, akafika pale side park, akaingia ndani akaniambia nimwangalie gari. Kurudi akaniachia mia ni kama ya shusha na kaenda.
As a version of one of the young men who is allegedly came into contact with one of those who are expected to be behind this attack, and he says, the car that he was given, one of the cars that exploded, and that is one of the explosions that were reported, but at least those who were there, and it's, in fact, those who we of course cannot divulge, who were there and have made it out, I believe, have said that there was explosions, which was followed by a continued or sustained gunfire. And you've probably even seen some versions of people capturing this on their social media platforms, with people running out of that complex and the office complex within that area, and also saying that, showing that indeed there was a lot of confusion. You could even hear some of the gunshot rounds going off as this was developing earlier.
All right, we can take you live to the ground with our reporter, NTV's Vincent Odwor, who is at the location or nearby. Vincent, paint a picture of what is happening on the ground and also what we know. Vincent, if you can hear me, paint a picture of what is happening on the ground and the latest details that you have. All right, there is our reporter, Vincent Odwor. We're just trying to reach him. Of course, we will bring him to you as and when we get that signal back. But, Mark, we mentioned that there are a lot of police personnel on the ground, but there are also a number of journalists covering this event.
Yes.
And the issue of the state's security is one that is going to come up in a strong and big way. It is a new year. We are constantly guaranteed of our security, and we are expecting to hear from the top security officers who will address this issue, because it is a new year and the latest attack in months.
Yes, definitely. And before we even get to the specifics of who would be behind this, we can see there that in terms of the operation right now, it is going to be a bit crazy and hectic for the journalists, as the security officers are creating a perimeter there and trying to get people to move back as they try to evacuate and rescue more people. Right now, there are no numbers in terms of how many people have been rescued, and if indeed there's those who are still stuck in there, how many people are there and how many attackers were there. But as you could hear earlier with one of the witness accounts, that indeed someone had given the car there to one of the what you would call parking boys, and yes, soon after this is a little after 3 o'clock, there was an explosion. This, of course, is what was followed by sustained gunshots, and it has a lot of writings of previous attacks that we have had, but until we do have an official account from the officials, and that is the security officers, this is something that we definitely cannot call at the moment, but it is definitely an attack and a security breach to the nation.
And on the issue of security, as you can see in that picture, there is a barrier. The Dusit Hotel in that compound does have heavy security, Mark,
yes,
as you enter it. As is the case at many hotels, there is a barrier. There are security officers. They do tend to check your vehicles and do a search by opening the vehicles, checking with their mirrors, and it will be interesting to find out how this security was breached.
Yes, and when you say security, it's not just any other security firm, but at this particular complex, for those who have been there, it is actually security men in uniform who check your car. And in fact, there are 2 checkpoints before you get into the Dusit complex. So yes, as to how those 2 cars made it to that area, of course, it doesn't seem to have made it within the Dusit hotel complex particularly, but just outside one of the barriers. And yes, some of the pictures there earlier, this was an account of those who had been capturing this from close by buildings, of people making their way out, and of course escaping soon after this had happened. Earlier we were talking about, and in fact when we were getting some of these pictures, some people were confused, is this a security drill? But increasingly it seemed that this is not a security drill, and it seemed indeed to be one of these unfortunate attacks that have been. And yes, people trying to get an account. In fact, this, I believe, is the Facebook account of a gentleman who was trying to talk to people and get their accounts. But of course, as you'd expect, someone is running away, wouldn't want to talk, would just want to make it to a safe space, as there was continued and sustained gunfire at this point.
And the fact that the Dusit is a hotel and there are office complexes in the compound as well is telling of the kind of civilians that would frequent the venue, as you could even see from that footage. Some foreigners, tourists who are visiting the country and staying at the Dusit Hotel. There are restaurants there as well, and also staff members, and the fact that there are offices, a lot of businessmen and women all transacting business in that compound. So that is the kind of personnel that we are seeing, and really it is a situation that no doubt has caused a lot of panic across the country as we look into our security situation here. And at the moment what we are relying on is, of course, accounts from witnesses who have sent in video and also who have spoken to media outlets. Social media has been greatly helpful in this situation in terms of sharing information. Of course, a lot of information coming to us must be verified, and we are in the process of doing that. But what we can confirm is that some sort of attack did take place this afternoon at around 3:15 p.m. at the Riverside Drive. Number 14 was the compound, and at the moment we are seeing civilians being evacuated. Police personnel on the ground, security has been beefed up, and in the last at least a half an hour or so, there seems to be some relative silence in terms of gunshots.
Yes, an exchange.
And exchange of fire.
Right, and this was earlier. This was around 3 o'clock, this account here by a gentleman on Facebook. And you talk about how helpful the social media has been in terms of getting some of the information in, but it can also have the equal effect of being destructive. And it is also good to warn those who have been spreading and sharing some of the videos and pictures that the idea is not to spread pandemonium or any scare, but to alert people of what is going on. And there could be inaccurate information out there. As of now, we are waiting on official accounts. We have a team on the ground that is following this. As you've said earlier, Smriti, just a few seconds ago, yes, they have. This has come to a certain calm. And yes, the wrecking squad that earlier made way into the complex itself, you can imagine, are now probably sweeping through, and if anything, probably in an exchange with whoever is behind the attack here. But it has been calm, has been quiet, and perhaps that's what we can appreciate from our perspective. I mean, we're in studio, but from our perspective, our cameraman and reporter on the ground, because they have been pushed back a bit just to be at a safe distance. And as you can see, some people wanting to witness what's going on, but it's still not safe.
It certainly isn't, and in a moment we will try and get NTV's Vincent Odor back online with us to paint a picture really of what is happening on the ground and to bring us some of the sights and sounds. Just a reminder to you that Riverside Drive is off Wayaki Way. At this time, and a lot of the time during the day, Riverside Drive is rather heavy with traffic, Mark, so no doubt traffic has built up there. If you are a witness to any of this, you can contact us at NTV Kenya or at Mark Masai, at Smriti Vidyarthi, and tell us what you can see from where you are. But do avoid the area if it is possible, because there is likely to be heavy traffic and diversions as well. As I said earlier, Riverside area is full of residences and also offices as well as ambassadorial homes.
And one of the versions to the story in terms of what the intention could have been behind this attack is because within this complex there are various business institutions, and one of them is a bank. And in the initial stages, the Prime Bank, people thought it was a robbery at the bank. In fact, we had some people who were there, and they initially thought that this was a robbery, but it increasingly looks like it is an attack that was being carried out and is being being put under control, under seeming control from our vantage point right now. As you can see, Vincent Odor getting ready to give us any updates he's getting right now from the ground. You can appreciate as well, no officer is talking on the ground as they would wait for an official word from the top of command as to what the situation is, and many versions going on outside there. But we will stick to what we know from our reports on the ground and what the security officials would have to say in response to this. They have already responded. At least that is some form of comfort in terms of seeing those uniforms on the ground and officers who have been trying to neutralize or curtail the situation, as well as residents, or civilians who are armed and well planned as to trying to rescue some of those who were there. And yes, I believe we can get another account of what was happening earlier.
We can. John Alanamu, a journalist, has an account. Let's listen into what he has to say.
About 2:30 p.m. this afternoon, we were driving along Riverside Drive when we started to hear gunfire coming from the direction of the Dusit Hotel and the Nairobi University hostels. When we arrived, the gunfire still been going. As you can see behind me, there are about 2 cars that are on fire. What we believe happened from eyewitness accounts is that people who were driving that car, that small Toyota right behind me, gained access to the Dusit Hotel and began to open fire after about 30 minutes of waiting right at the junction. We'll try and see what else is happening, but right now the situation is quite tense, it's quite live.
That witness account coming to us from journalist John Alanamu and our former colleague as well, who happened to be driving along Riverside Drive at the time of the incident, sharing his witness account. As I said earlier, if you have any account of what transpired today, or if you were in the area and you are willing to share your perspective, please tweet us at NTV Kenya, at Smriti Vidyarthi, or at Mark Masai.
And in initial or previous experiences in such attacks, if indeed you are in touch with someone, keep the communication at a bare minimum, because this is something that we would want to keep those who are within that complex to feel safe and be safe, depending on how the situation is developing and how the progress that our security officers are gaining in neutralizing the situation right now. But yes, as it is, there are some versions out here online. As I said, it is very prudent to stay away from any form of propaganda in terms of people claiming what this would be in terms of who is behind it. And until we get the verified facts from the security officials and our team on the ground, and even the Red Cross, we've seen there, Abbas Gulet, he is on the ground. And yes, them being one of the first teams that always respond to such occurrences would have some information, but right now their priority is to help anyone who has been injured. We've seen some pictures of people being rescued and carried away, having been injured. As you can expect as well, people running out would get injured as they run out, and in terms of responding to this. And yes, it is definitely what we can confirm right now. It is definitely not a drill, and this is a security breach at the Dusit Hotel. How and as to who is behind this is yet unclear, but we are glad to see those who managed to make way away from this building, make it away from this building. This was earlier, so don't expect that you would be able to gain access to this building. So don't go anywhere close, as the police have already warned and have advised Kenyans, those who are within this area, to stay away and let them undertake the operation in a proper manner.
All right, we've just gone past 5:15 this afternoon. That's roughly 2 hours after the first reports came through that there is activity at the Dusit Hotel complex. That is number 14 Riverside Drive. At around 3:15 this afternoon, gunshots and blasts were heard from various directions, according to civilians at the complex. They were terrified. They sent out messages saying that they didn't know what was happening. happening, but they heard multiple gunshots, and later on pictures started coming through of a blast car on fire is what we were seeing. Thereafter, security personnel checked into the venue. We witnessed plenty of police and also GSU and plainclothes policemen as well. And not long after that, we then witnessed civilians being evacuated from number 14 Riverside Drive, that is off Waiyaki Way. And since then, the situation has seemed to have calmed down in terms of the exchange of gunfire between the security agencies and whoever carried out this attack. What we don't know at the moment are the specific details as to who is behind this attack and what sort of attack it was exactly. We are waiting for an official report by the government and security agencies, and as soon as we get that, we will of course bring it to you.
As you can see there, an officer just keeping our team behind or at a close, at a safe distance, and at least some movement there of a bit more calm than earlier. This is a contrast than we had earlier of the picture there, the actually Facebook live feed there of one of the gentlemen who was close to this particular building when it had happened, and these are people who have managed to get it safe out. And yes, just a reminder, and I see people talking about it even online, please, it is safe. This is actually by one of our correspondents and our teammates here, Melito Leteng, is advising that people should not disclose the location of others who could be within the Dusit building at the moment, whether it's online or even talking to them, because that could be a security threat to them as they are in hiding. There have been some reports of people hiding within the different rooms of that building, but we do also know that security officials, especially the Record Squad, have made it into that complex and are engaging with those who are behind this attack. So some form of new control is underway right now, but we still can't get the finer details from our vantage point.
What we do know at this point, as you can see on your screens, casualties with gunshot wounds have been admitted at the Aga Khan Hospital and the Kenyatta National Hospital. What we don't have are specific numbers or the extent of those wounds or any other fatalities, but as and when we get the details, we will bring them to you. At the moment, the most we can do is bring you the verified reports that we have without speculating. There is speculation online as to who has claimed responsibility for this attack, but that has not been confirmed, and once it is, we will bring you the details. Let's now take you live to our reporter on the ground. At the moment, it is NTV's Seth Olale. Seth, if you can hear us, tell us what is happening and what we know.
What we know is that there is heavy police presence here along Riverside Drive, and as you can see just behind me, we have this particular road that has completely been on a lockdown since the incident happened, and police are not allowing anyone to go past this particular place. Not even the press or any other government official is being allowed to go past this particular place. There is heavy police presence. There's a police helicopter that has been hovering around this particular place. We have many curious residents who are cameraman Gishira, and they're just anxious since they heard about this particular incident. We've had some shots that were fired. That was like 15 minutes ago, repeated shots that were fired. We are not yet certain, or it has not yet been confirmed who fired those particular shots, whether gunshots or whatever that was. It has not been confirmed, but what we saw is one ambulance that just drove past this particular place. And if my cameraman Gishira, if we just zoom in, and these are just some of the persons that have been coming out from these particular directions, and they're not speaking to anyone. We saw earlier on, like the Red Cross volunteers trying just to usher them outside this particular area that has now been locked down. It is in a complete shutdown. I'll just try and engage some of them and just ask you what it felt like being at that particular area. And Very sorry, excuse me, just tell us what you know about what happened there.
Nothing.
Just some of the persons just leaving that particular place, maybe just too terrified to speak to the media right now. And this has been the situation here this has been the situation. And right now we have lots and lots of security personnel arriving at this particular place. And this has been the situation. Right now we have this particular vehicle that has heavy police protection just around it. Perhaps maybe it could be a senior government official. And that has been the situation. But also just to let you know is that we also have one person that has been apprehended by the police, and we'll just try to show you that particular person. And he told us that he tried actually to move away from the scene where the incident was happening, but he has been apprehended by the police. And what's happening right now is that the Riverside Drive is in a complete shutdown, and no one is being allowed to access the exact location where this particular incident, we are told, that started happening as from 3:15 p.m. And like I told you, that is the police helicopter that has been hovering around this particular place. And right now, the police are just not allowing anyone to go past this particular place. Excuse me, ma'am. If you can just tell us what happened, what's happening.
I don't know.
Well, we're just still waiting to hear any response from the police. And there has been a huge blast that has just been witnessed at this particular moment. A huge blast that just took off some minutes ago, actually some seconds ago. And right now, the police are just getting to have everyone leave this particular place. There has been a huge explosion. We've just had it like 30 seconds ago. And right now you can see the persons who are leaving that particular area, which we are meant to understand that it is the center of this particular area. The GK vehicle that was heading towards that place has also stopped abruptly, and everyone is running towards our direction. And just to repeat, there has been a huge explosion about 45 minutes ago, and everyone is terrified. People 45 seconds ago, and everyone is now running towards our direction. The government vehicle, the GK vehicle, the Subaru that has a siren and was heading towards that particular place, actually toward Dusuit, has now stopped, and we have officers on the ground loaded with guns. And we're being told that the security officers are around here just telling us that we need to move from this particular place. Heightened activity around Riverside Drive. And we have some of the persons who actually just managed to leave that particular place. We have been trying to get some reactions from them, but obviously very, very much terrified to speak to the media and to speak to us. And like I told you earlier, we have one person who has been apprehended by the police. And right now, I just want to show you that particular person. He is in this particular police van, actually this AP vehicle from the Westland Sub-County. And that person, we meant to understand, that was arrested by the police about 30 or 45 minutes ago, and we're going to ask where he's being taken. And that is a person that has been apprehended by the police, and right now he's been taken. We're not yet sure where exactly he's going to be taken, but he is already in cuffs. He has been apprehended, and we are going to definitely wait for police response in regards to why they apprehended him, and if they they believe that maybe he is involved in what's going on right now. But right now, Smriti, that's the latest from the Riverside Drive here, and we're just waiting for any more reactions. But remember, that's like 2 minutes ago or 1 minute and 30 seconds ago, we had a huge explosion from that particular direction, and that one made each and everything here almost come to a standstill. But definitely we shall keep you posted to any latest activity or any latest happenings here along the Riverside Drive. Smriti.
Seth Olale coming to us live from Riverside Drive. Thanks very much. You and the team and everybody else do keep safe. Just an update that at 17:29, Seth reported another loud explosion coming from the vicinity. We don't know what that was, but we will get the details. And at 17:31, one person was apprehended and we witnessed him being driven away in an AP vehicle. Let's now take you live back to the scene. NTV's Ken Mjungu has a different perspective. Ken, what can you tell us?
Right, thank you, Smriti. And indeed, we have a different vantage point from where Seth is. Actually, we are along the Riverside Drive, just about 200 meters from where the action is, from where the police are. And right now, where I am is the last point that people or anyone who's not authorized is around, allowed to be. And just next to me is the Australian Embassy, which is by the side of the city. I just want to tell you exactly where this place is. After Chiromo, headed towards Riverside Drive, and then you have to take a left turn. That is where the action has been. And in the last few minutes, perhaps 2 or 3 minutes ago, there was a huge explosion that we had from inside. But the media and the civilians and anyone who is not authorized here has been pushed a little further, about 100 meters from the point of the action. The only people allowed in there in the last few minutes is in additional reinforcement.
Kenyan Police trying to give us a different version in terms of his vantage point of this hotel. And yes, earlier that he also confirms hearing the same, that huge blast, and we could see some commotion there in response to that particular development. And this showing that indeed it is quite active and volatile within that area. And please, just a reminder, stay clear of that area. Don't go. You don't have to try and be a hero and get close by. There are security officers who are on the ground, as you can see from different contingents, and trying to get control of the situation. And yes, the trauma that you could see in the faces of those who have been rescued and made it out of that Dusit Hotel area and complex, because it's not just Dusit Hotel, there are various office complexes that are close by this Dusit Hotel. And yes, this is where the activity is right now. And just another development there is we saw a picture there of a person who has been apprehended and being taken into custody by the police. We'll get the details of who that particular person is and whether he is indeed part of this attack, the traumatic scenes there, but also a lot of relief from those who are, their friends or loved ones who are close by, who are just glad to be able to have their loved ones with them at this point. But still, right now we've been pushed back a bit further, understandably, because it is still quite active, and we couldn't quite tell who the security official who made it in a Subaru earlier on. But indeed, we are waiting to see. We saw Kinoti earlier leading the operation with some of the officials, but they definitely wouldn't be talking to us at this point until they get the situation at least understood and in some form of control.
Earlier, Mark, we mentioned that the situation had settled down in terms of the exchange of gunfire, and that indeed was the case.
Yes.
However, Seth did clarify that there had been some gunshots fired, and then at 5:30 this afternoon, that's just about 5 minutes ago, Seth on the ground did witness, or hear rather, another huge explosion. So there is still plenty of activity taking place at Riverside, so our eyes and ears are still on the ground. NTV's Vincent Odwor can now join us live from location. Vincent, from where you are, tell us what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and what the latest is.
Absolutely. Right now, I'm on top of a flyover that is exactly at the junction of 14 Riverside Drive and the Riverside Road. That is basically a road that is leading to the compound or complex where there is a Dusit Hotel, together with other buildings that are housing several offices. As you can see, when you look at the road, that is 14 Riverside Road, 14 Riverside Drive, you realize there is a car, a Toyota Raktis that has been parked beside or along the road on the left side. And that is a car, or the vehicle is believed to have been used by the attackers to come to this place. And just moments ago, about 5 minutes ago or 10 or so, there was a big explosion from that similar car. And it's believed there was an explosive device inside the car or a grenade that has been detonated just moments ago. And it's believed they had used that car before gaining access to the building. You know, I'm just from the complex inside the compound a few minutes ago, and I can tell you what I saw. I saw 3 vehicles that have been burnt, that have basically been burnt, and it is believed the vehicles had explosives inside that exploded before the attackers decided to gain access to the building. And what I can tell you, some few minutes to 5 p.m., I saw several people being rescued from the complex, and we saw several people being rescued from the complex. I can tell you more than 40 or 40-something people have been rescued from the building, and most of them are shaken. Some of them were crying. Some of them were unable even to speak. Some of them were confused. It was a total chaos. But I haven't seen people with severe injuries or people who are unable to walk. Most of them were okay, but shaken. But what I can tell you is that what is going on right now, for the past 1 hour, I've been able to see 3 armored personnel carriers, 3 armored police vehicles that have accessed the building, ready to combat and ready to try and facilitate the rescue operation. And right now, what is going on is that we have several units from the security personnel. We have the GSU who are here, the elite squad. We have bomb experts who all of them have accessed the building, and they are trying to really bring everything in order. For the past 10 minutes, I haven't seen any other people being rescued from the building, but several people have already been rescued, and they have been. And I happened to talk to one of them who told me that by the time he was being rescued, there were 3 or 4 of his friends still trapped inside the building. And he told me that for him, he was hiding, somewhere where there were fridges. That's where he was hiding before he was rescued. But he told me that there are other people or several people still in the building, because you remember. Right now, I can tell you also there is a helicopter, police helicopter, that is hovering around this place, trying to give that aerial support to make sure that troops on the ground are able to being facilitated to really bring this thing to an end. And what I can tell you is that also, right now, and this operation, what is surprising is that this operation is being led by the Director of Criminal Investigation, George Kinoti, who has been here ever since it started. And I saw him. He's in a bulletproof gear or bulletproof jacket, and he's here coordinating the operation to try and rescue those who are inside. Another thing we were able to see in the complex, in the compound, is that there was a live grenade inside the compound, and this, shocked everybody, and the security personnel had to tell everybody to take cover before the bomb experts came and detonated also the grenade. But so far, what you can see is that the security personnel or the bomb experts are still investigating or trying to find more about the car, the Toyota Raktis, that is believed to have been used by the attackers to access the building. And they left it a few meters from the main gate before abandoning the car on the side of the road and getting access to the building, because the complex, you know, the complex houses Dusit Hotel. And besides Dusit Hotel, there are several other buildings in the complex or in the compound that houses several offices for various companies. And it is believed at the time of the attack, remember the explosion occurred exactly at 3:45 p.m. and thereafter it was followed by several gunshots. And you know, at that time people are still working, because at most workplaces people normally leave work at 5 p.m. Therefore most of the staffs were around at that time, and it is believed there are several other staffs who are trapped in offices housed by the several buildings in that complex. That's what is happening right now. So far, nothing apart from the rescue operation that is underway. The security officers and several people are milling around here while the rescue operation is ongoing. Sorry. There's some people here. If I can try, can you talk? Are you from the place? I thought there was some rescue, those people have been rescued. Guys, are you from the place? My efforts to try and find somebody from the building is futile here. I think none has come out right now. We'll try and try to see if we can get somebody to speak to really tell us what transpired. But so far, I think nothing, what I can inform you so far, apart from the helicopter that is hovering here trying to put things in order. And we've been told that we have to leave this flyover because you never know, because the security officers are suspecting that, you know, maybe they've left certain explosive devices somewhere around this place. So for now, I'm taking you back to studio.
Vincent Odor, thank you very much. Your security comes first indeed, and yes, cooperating with the security officials is advisable at this moment as they try to take control of the situation as is, and understandably trying to talk to some of those who are within the area. Whether they made it out of the building is going to be a bit hard, because many are traumatized, just happy to be out, but traumatized nonetheless, and understandably so if you're caught up in such a situation. And as this continues right now, at least we have a good picture before darkness falls, and we can be able to tell what is happening. And yes, we at least know at the moment someone has been admitted at the Empisha hospital, and some others who without serious injuries at the Aga Khan hospital. But there is a certain appeal at the moment, because this is what happens when people are injured. We definitely need a lot of support.
Right, there is a urgent blood appeal at. You are able to make your way there to make a blood donation. Please do. As Mark said, various casualties have been admitted to different hospitals: the MP Shah Hospital, Avenue Hospital, Aga Khan Hospital, and the Kenyatta National Hospital. But there is an urgent blood appeal at the Avenue Hospital. What we know at this point, as we approach 6 o'clock this evening, is that there was an explosion and heavy gunfire at 14 Riverside Drive this afternoon, just past 3 o'clock this afternoon. What you're seeing on your screens are earlier pictures of people being evacuated or simply fleeing the area. After the gunshots were reported, police did make their way into the area. There is still heavy security presence, and what we have witnessed is an apprehension. One person has been driven away. At 5:30 this afternoon, another explosion was heard. Our reporter on the ground, Seth Olale, heard that whilst reporting live on TV. It is believed that it was in fact a controlled explosion, but we are yet to get details about that. And in the meantime, a police helicopter is still hovering around the area. Curious residents are milling around, but the police are being very stern in terms of keeping the public away. The area has been cordoned off, and everybody has been urged to keep their distance. This is a highly sensitive and a highly traumatic time for everybody involved, and security agencies are doing their best to control the situation. Earlier, we brought brought you pictures of GSU officers, armed civilians, and also armed police officers who are trying to bring peace and order to the area.
And this is just to appreciate the gentleman who had given some of the pictures earlier. These pictures that you see right now are not live, they are earlier. And this was by a gentleman called Robert Luta. He is a photojournalist as well, and he was trying to capture what was happening. These are just initially at just around 3:30 or around 3 o'clock, soon after the first initial explosions and exchange of gunfire. Gentlemen there being helped by other well-wishers and of course who were around, and this being a situation that would require all the space and perhaps room for the security officials to carry out the operation. We continue to repeat this appeal. Please stay clear of that area, and the police have advised that you use alternative routes and not to access the Riverside Drive area in case you live around there or you work around there. This, of course, being past the office hours, and many would be making their way home from the offices. Just use alternative routes within the Westlands area if you need to pass through that point, because right now it has been cordoned off by police, and understandably so. Another urgent appeal, of course, that we need to just help people understand, and if you are able to give your assistance, is at the Avenue Hospital in Parklands, where they've made an appeal for blood donation. And yes, we did see as well the head of the DCI, that is George Kinoti, who was leading some of the officers there. We saw some of the elite squad who were trying to access this particular complex from different vantage points, and other forces, of course, with armored vehicles trying to make their way there as securely as possible, but also to neutralize any security threats. And yes, we can, and I can actually quote our very own investigative editor here, that is Dennis Okari, who has some sources there, and he says that from his version of what he's gathered from his sources, attackers of 14 Riverside Drive by shooting at guards, and they hurled explosives into vehicles and went into Dusit D2 Hotel. And yes, initially we pointed out, Smriti, that this has been an area that is quite heavily guarded by uniformed police and armed policemen. And just to understand what could have happened, and now it's making sense with what Vincent has also managed to gather, that they detonated some grenades within vehicles just outside the complex, perhaps to create the confusion as they were making their way into this Dusit Hotel. And yes, as of now, we do not have any confirmations of casualties. Those who have been injured, at least one person has been admitted to MP Shah Hospital, and several others at the Aga Khan Hospital. And this seems perhaps some form of calm, but you can appreciate that we've been pushed to a certain distance from the point of action. And earlier, at around like 30 minutes ago, we did see, while Setolale was live giving us an update, that explosion as people were still making their way out of that complex.
That explosion, it has been reported that it was a controlled explosion, but we are yet to get verification on that. And as we witnessed earlier, our colleagues have been trying to speak to those affected, but as I said, it is an extremely traumatic time for anybody involved in a situation like this. Emergency services such as the Red Cross are on the ground and doing their utmost best as well to help anybody affected. And as and when we get more information on what has transpired, we will bring it to you. But right now, what we can tell you is there is still plenty of activity taking place at 14 Riverside Office Park there on Riverside Drive. Just to bring you some context, Riverside Drive is a long road that links plenty of offices and residences and restaurants to one another. It is off off Wayaki Way, that is in the Westlands region. It's on the opposite side of the highway. Riverside Drive, if we put in context, is sort of opposite the Kempinski Hotel. And this incident took place at number 14. And it did, of course, cause a lot of alarm, worry and panic, as you can imagine. But now police are controlling this situation. We have witnessed one person being apprehended, and as we get more information on that, we will bring it to you. Mark, though, as you said, and I'll just quote again, our investigative editor, that is Dennis Okari, has tweeted that attackers forced their way into 14 Riverside Drive by shooting at guards, and they hurled explosives into vehicles and went into Dusit D2 Hotel. That is also information coming to us from our sister website, that is the Daily Nation.
And yes, the smoke that you see there is from the earlier explosion, and this is not active, the active situation, as it's probably indicated from the live signal right there. We saw some pictures as well of cars that were in flames, and that is one of the car, actually the two cars that had some explosives hurled into them as they were making their way into this complex. And it is worth repeating, yes, we have been talking a lot about Dusit Hotel, but within that same space, there are a lot of offices with some travel agencies and other even international organizations that have offices within that building that perhaps would have people who are still within that complex, and that is still one of the areas that the security officials are trying to secure and definitely get people who are perhaps trapped within there and would try to make their way out. And as much as you can, if you do have someone within that place, do not disclose their location, but just as far as you can do in terms of verifying that they are safe. And understandably, you'd want to know that your loved one who perhaps works there or was in that area at that general time, you'd want to know if they're safe, and you'd be happy to see them right now if they're one of those who are walking out of that complex right now. And these we can confirm are now live pictures of people making their way out of that area. And yes, this is a space that you said it is high end, and yes, with just besides the guests that would be at the there are offices that are represented by different international organizations, and yes, you would be seeing many people making their way out of there. But our teams have been pushed back, understandably so, just to give way for the security officials to make their way into this particular complex and take control of what they can. And yes, just a reminder that there has been an individual who has been apprehended and is in police custody. When we were speaking to Setolale earlier, we did get the live pictures as he was being driven away by the police, and we didn't get the identity of this individual, but there is at least one person in police custody as the investigations and the operation right now, we should call it actually, the operation to neutralize what is going on at the Dusit Hotel and to put it under control goes on. And yes, please, another reminder, please stay clear of this area, and things could get a bit more complicated as darkness falls. And yes, we can get some updates. We were talking about the appeals that we were getting from some of the hospitals within Nairobi. We had a hospital in Pisha where there was someone who was admitted from this particular incident, and as well as the Aga Khan Hospital. But now we can get an update from one of our team members, that is Zainab Ismail.
Zainab, tell us what is happening at the Aga Khan Hospital.
Thank you so much, Mark. We are actually at the Aga Khan University Hospital here in Westlands. It's just a few meters from the Riverside, 14 Riverside, where the attack happened. We understand that the attack happened at exactly 3:15 p.m. and first it was a loud bang, possibly a bomb, before gunshots were heard from the area. That is the Dusit D2. It is a hotel located along Riverside. So far, the only information that I can confirm for you is the fact that so far 4 people have been brought here as casualties through that incident. We have no information on the kind of injuries that they've been able to sustain, but 4 ambulances have been able to arrive at the Aga Khan University and have brought 4 people here so far. The information is still a bit, tight-lipped with the doctors staying out of, saying they will not give us information at this point. But of course, we're trying to get more information for you. We're waiting to see if, because we're hearing a lot of, ambulance sirens across the different areas coming in. Of course, some are heading to the MP Shah, but so far we understand that only 4 casualties have been brought here at the Aga Khan, and those have been able to sustain injuries from that attack at Dusit along Riverside Mark. We'll continue to stay here. We'll get more information for you, and in just a few minutes we'll bring you more on what we can be able to get from the developing story.
Zainab Ismail coming to us live from the Aga Khan University Hospital in Parklands here in Nairobi. Thanks very much indeed for that update. Zainab says that 4 casualties from the site have been admitted at the Aga Khan Hospital. Other hospitals that are tending to those that have been injured include the MP Shah Hospital, Avenue Hospital and the Kenyatta National Hospital as well. There is an urgent blood appeal at Avenue Hospital. If you are in a position to donate blood, please do so at that hospital. And Mark, something interesting to note is that it has been 3 years to the day of the Al-Shabaab attack on El Ade, that is a Amazon army base in the town of El Ade in Somalia. It was one of the deadliest attacks. Al-Shabaab militants launched that attack exactly 3 years ago. So this attack, again, it has not been verified as to who has carried out this attack, at least officially. There are reports on social media that an agency has claimed responsibility, but we are yet to get the official word from the government and security agencies. But it is worth noting that on January 15th, 2016, the Al-Shabaab did attack on El Ade in Somalia.
Yes, that is correct, Smriti. And not to read into conspiracies, but as well, yesterday there were 3 suspects. Actually, 1 suspect was released. A suspect who was said to be behind the Westgate attack was released, but 3 are said to have a case to answer and are still in police custody. So, I mean, this coming at this time, many questions raised, but at the moment, no official, claim of this attack, but it has all the writings of what we have experienced as a nation earlier. And things get a bit complicated as it gets darker, but at least we have some vision and some views and even sound of what is going on still at Riverside Drive. And Kenmi Jungu and his camera man is there, and these are the live pictures from there. Let's listen in.
All right, Mark and Smriti, in the last few minutes, we've just had a few more gunshots. You can see an ambulance that is just preparing to leave. It's not clear where the gunshots were aimed, but straight after that, we've seen that's a flying squad car that is just driving out of this place straight after the gunshots that are about 6 or 7 that rang a few minutes. Now, this ambulance is leaving with someone who has been injured, but we had the gunshots and we see a little activity from inside, but it's not clear what exactly has happened inside, just like the explosion that went on about 40 or so minutes ago, which was not also clear. In the last few minutes, we've also realized there is an additional chopper here from the Kenya Air Force that has been added. It's also been patrolling and going around this area. The place is still cordoned off. No one is allowed to get in. No one is allowed to get out. But you can see, if that shot is so clear, there are a number of personnel carrying the equipment getting into where that gunshot rang a few minutes ago. We've also seen policemen who are now walking outside. We also have information, Mark and Freddy, that in the last few minutes, one of the suspects may have been arrested. We have been told that information, that when the police vehicle that was heavily guarded, in fact, there were policemen preceding the vehicle. They just drove out with policemen guarding the vehicle. vehicle, and then they went towards the exit towards Wayaki Way. Now, we were told by some personnel here that it could have been carrying one of the suspects who may have been arrested, and the reports also indicate that the suspect may have been having guns. So there are so many people around here. It's not clear if the person who was arrested was one of the attackers or just someone who was found with guns inside there. So we are waiting for those reports. But as you know, in a place like this, information is not so forthcoming. There's a lot of protocol, but the people we have managed to speak to tells us that this operation is being handled very well, and they're confident that whatever is happening inside there will end anytime soon. There are a number of additional equipment and police vehicles that have gone in, including fire rescue vehicles that have gone in. And in the last few minutes also, we have realized that additional personnel from the wreckage squad have also come in. And of course, the activities continue, the rescue continue. We spoke to some of the organizations and offices, people from the offices who are inside the office park, and they told us that they still have their colleagues who are still held inside there. So it's not yet sure, it's not yet clear how many more people are still inside. But remember, Office Park is a very busy place. Just before the Dusit Hotel, which is known in this area, there are several office blocks, including banking halls and a lot of private businesses. In fact, I spoke to a girl earlier who told me she works at a salon, and she told me the shooting began right before you get to Dusit and continued inside. And there was a lot of panic during the rescue because they were not sure who was coming to rescue them. But again, they are glad they are out safe. So what's happening right now? There's a lot of ambulances. Probably from sources here, there are about 2,000 to 3,000 people who work around this area. And until they are all accounted for, you cannot count or you cannot authoritatively say that they are all out. There were tourists, there were people who are holidaying, there were people who are in the hotel dining, and they are probably they're still held inside there. But the police have cordoned off this area. In fact, if you are attempting to come to Riverside 14, it's impossible because both ends from Kileleshwa has been cordoned off. In fact, journalists have not been allowed, the ones who were locked outside have not been allowed to come in. And from Wayaki Way along Riverside Drive have also been, it's also been blocked, so they have not also been allowed to come in. So basically, the people who are inside here, the rescue personnel, the journalists, the police, and all the security firms that are here are the only people who are currently allowed here. And remember, this place is just opposite the Australian embassy, so we've had a lot of also security forces from that end coming in to reinforce what we already have. Now, the wreckage squad are basically the personnel who are in, but we have a lot of general service unit, we have a lot of regular police here, and the command led by none other than the police inspector general who was here, and we still presume he's still inside because the media has been taken about 200 meters from the venue or the site of what's happening here. So we are not sure if they're still in there. And then we have senior policemen. We have seen the DCI also was here. So there's a lot of things that are happening there that we cannot report about and we cannot authoritatively talk about because we have been told to keep off, and obviously for the right reason. But the personnel who we have spoken to say that the operation has been very well handled. And this is still very fresh in people's mind. That is the Westgate attack, and they're comparing. We've seen a lot of personnel. We covered Westgate. We've seen a lot of them also here who tells us that this is really handled well. So scant information coming in, especially from my right, where the Dusit Hotel is, and obviously where Office Park is, and a lot of residential places. Just opposite is the hostel housing the students of the Nairobi University. So there's a lot of people here, but the information that is coming as expected, until they are sure, they are not able to speak. But as I said, in the last few minutes, they've added additional choppers flying over this place, and personnel also going in, a recce squad, more personnel going in, gunshots going off about 10 minutes ago, about 7 shots, not clear where they were directed to, and obviously that explosion also that we heard about an hour ago, still unexplained. We just seen in the last hour or so, we've seen about 3 people being wheeled out of that place and taken to ambulances, which have subsequently been driven off. So it's not clear, but as soon as we have more information, especially the information on that possible arrest of a suspect, that suspect who's been arrested, it's not clear if he's one of the attackers. If it's not the attacker, who was the person? Because the person who gave that information told us that they had so many guns. So back to you, Smriti, and Mark will be here to see what's happening, and we'll definitely bring it to you.
All right, Kenny Jungu, thank you very much. Still at the scene from a different vantage point, and Seth Olale is also still on the ground and will be giving us an update. I believe he has a witness account, or at least an update he can give us from someone who has been there since the attack took place. And just to give you a quick update, yes, still there's some sounds of gunshots at the Dusit complex and the office park there, and we are meant to listen in now.
Responding quickly to our invitation, we have a short statement that I wish to read, and that we regret to inform that today at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a group of unknown armed assailants attacked the Dusit complex in what we suspect could be a terror attack. Security and emergency services responded quickly to the incident, and we immediately cordoned off the area, and the situation is being managed. And we have made evacuation of many persons in the complex, and the operation is still going on as we speak as of now. We wish to offer our prayers to those who are affected, and we wish quick recovery to those who are injured. We are aware that there still could be some armed criminals still holed up in the building, and our special forces are, as I said, engaged in that operation to flush them out. We wish to also regret that there could have been some injuries in the attack, and we are in the process of confirming the nature and the types of injuries. As you very well know, that we have been vigilant throughout the entire festive period. That is on the part of we in the security sector as well as the Kenyan people, in which we have had a very good festive period. And as part of the enhanced vigilance, all our critical national infrastructure as well as battle installations remain on guard. We wish at this stage to urge the public to remain calm and to cooperate with the instructions given by security agencies, because we are looking forward to bringing this situation to normalcy within the shortest time possible. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish to inform that we'll continue updating you as we get regular updates. Thank you very much for coming.
You've been listening in to the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, addressing the press regarding the situation that has taken place this afternoon at number 14 Riverside Drive, where there had been an attack, a bomb explosion and an exchange of gunfire. And he has said that the situation is still ongoing in terms of the rescue operation. His officers are engaged in an operation to flush out the assailants. Earlier, we did see one assailant being apprehended, and he has been swept off to a police station. But it is still an active situation in that respect, that security agencies are still working to figure out really what has happened, if there are any other assailants that are still present in the building. And in the meantime, we have been witnessing the evacuation process where civilians have been evacuated. Understandably, they are extremely traumatized and disturbed and unwilling to speak to the press, and it is a time where that ought to be respected. So that is the latest at this moment, and the Inspector General also said that the police are still trying to confirm the nature and type of injuries. There have been some casualties. Some individuals have been wounded by the exchange of gunfire, but those wounded have been admitted at various hospitals, including the MP Shah Hospital, Avenue Hospital, Aga Khan Hospital and the Kenyatta National Hospital. At Avenue Hospital, there is an urgent blood appeal taking place. The Police Inspector General says that they suspect that this could be a terror attack, but final words on that have not been released. One suspected attacker has been reportedly arrested, as we saw, and he was in a possession of guns as well.
That's right, and yes, he didn't give the number or at least the nature of the injuries of those who've been admitted, as he regretted those who have been injured so far. But from our reporter earlier on, that is Zainab Ismail, she did say that there were 4 people at least that she witnessed being brought to the Aga Khan Hospital and had been brought from this particular attack, that is a Dusit Hotel attack, and are receiving treatment. And she didn't quite confirm whether this was a serious injury or it was just light. It wasn't as bad as many have been reporting, but there has been one person who was seriously injured and taken to MP Shah Hospital. But Brenda Wanga, I believe, would give us an update right now.
Yes, Brenda Wanga joins us live from Jogoo House. Brenda, what can you tell us?
Well, Smriti, we are here at Jogoo House, where the Inspector General of Police just held a press conference confirming the attack on the Dusit complex of buildings earlier today. He says the attack happened at around 3 p.m. this afternoon. He doesn't know the exact number of assailants who participated in that attack, but he says that they were armed. They made their way into the building, and he also goes on to say that at this point he cannot tell us exactly how many casualties, how many people were injured, or if there are any casualties. He says investigations are still going on. The operation is still active, so they will be letting us know exactly what happened. If there are, like we mentioned earlier, any injuries or what nature of injuries those are. But he actually did confirm that there were some injuries, but he tells us at this point he cannot tell us the extent of those injuries. Trying to take questions, saying that it is a situation that is still fluid. He did not tell us if we know at this point the identity of the attackers, but we have heard from other media outlets, especially international outlets, stating that it could have been an attack carried out by the Al-Shabaab. But again, we are waiting for confirmation from the Kenyan government. He did say he will be giving us more updates as this operation continues. He, however, also asks that the members of the public remain calm, as the security agencies on the ground are in charge of the situation and are hopeful of a resolution of this situation as soon as possible. Smriti?
Right, Brenda Wanga coming to us live from Jogoo House. Thanks very much indeed. That is the location of the address by the Inspector General just a few moments ago. Brenda bringing us the highlights. And our reporters are across the city at the moment. As we mentioned, Brenda Wanga at Jogoo House. Earlier we spoke to Zainab Ismail, who came to us live from the Aga Khan Hospital, where 4 casualties have been admitted. And Vincent Odwor is on location. That is at number 14 Riverside Drive. So is our reporter Seth Olale and also Ken Mijungu. But what you're seeing on your screen at the moment are pictures from the Aga Khan Hospital. It is located in the Parklands area, and it is perhaps, well, when there's no traffic, maybe about 10 or so minutes away from Riverside Drive. But speaking of traffic, no doubt there is a big build-up along Wayaki Way, I suspect, Mark, because on a normal day, Riverside Drive does get jam-packed with traffic, particularly at rush hour. And of course, in a situation like this, there is bound to be a big build-up as drivers have been directed to use alternative routes and divert and figure out different ways to reach their homes, because Riverside Drive does house a number of homes and apartments, as well as office blocks and restaurants, banks as well, and hotels.
It's hard to imagine that no one knows about this attack yet here in Kenya. But for those who would know, especially in Nairobi, stay clear of that area. And I'm told right now we can get an update from Seth Olale. There's still some light, so let's cross over there before he is moved by the security officials. On what updates you can give us right now, Seth?
Well, thank you so much. Actually, what's happening right now, survivors, or if you like, the persons who are caught in between this particular incident, we've had some that have been injured. So those who critically injured are being rushed by ambulances to the various nearby hospitals, as well as we have those who just managed to come out safely, but they're undergoing some counseling sessions led by volunteers from the Red Cross community. And this has been the scenario here. But right now, we just want to speak to one of the persons who was caught in between this particular one. Kangela kamera tueleze tu, are you comfortable in English or Swahili?
Can you use any? Yeah.
Just tell us about, what's your name first of all?
My name is Dominic.
Your name is?
Dominic.
Dominic, just tell us about what happened, where were you, and what did you see?
Actually, I was seated somewhere in an office, and I had a very round blast. So what I thought was maybe like a building, but when we had another one, the second one, we had to go out. So when we went out, that's the point when we saw what was, we started hearing the gunshots. So at least by the time we were coming out, the police were here, so we were requested to stay inside. So the request we were given by the police was that we stay inside the gate so that we are safe, but we could still hear the gunshots. But it was within a very short time, we could see the forces here, the special forces going around and now going towards the side of the hotel, because it's just down from where I was, just not a big, very long distance. Yeah, so I think from the first thing, when we had the first crowd, we could, people, where we were, in our mind was like we could not know what was happening at the first, but when the gunshots, we started hearing the gunshots, it triggered us and we had to go out to see what was happening. But the situation was a bit harder. Okay. Yeah, so we had to stay inside until now things were okay. Now we could now go out and go home. Yeah.
And everyone that you were with, all of them have been safely evacuated from the building?
Yeah, actually where we were not very close to the hotel, but we could see what was happening from where we are. So for us was just to stay safe, to know everything is okay outside. Then we had now to go out. Yes.
You told me earlier on there were repeated gunshots, and you actually saw two people that were shot. Do you know what condition they were in?
We saw two people. Immediately we came out of the gate, and from the sources we heard they were the taxi drivers. So one was shot at the back, and one was shot at the side of near the stomach. So we saw them. They were taken by boda boda just to the hospital. But from there, other things were taking. We were seeing now maybe the smoke and those blasts and the gunshots. So that's what we've been hearing for a while.
Still as the life around this particular place on a normal weekday, on a normal Tuesday, the Riverside Drive, how is it like? Is it busy, business as usual? Just tell us about the situation moments before this incident took place.
You know, the people were quiet, the traffic was flowing normally. So actually what I can say, I was in the office at that time. So immediately we had the blast, I had to go out to see what was happening. But the situation here is always the place is quiet and people are doing their business as usual. So there's nothing much.
Have you received calls from friends, relatives, just asking about if you're safe?
We apologize for the breakdown in the signal there, but Setolale is managing to get an account by or through someone who was nearby, not quite in the complex, but nearby, and could see the commotion, especially after the 2 explosions. And this has been confirmed as being in terms of the capturing the events as they came out. And these 2 explosions perhaps were as these 2, that barrier right there that we can see as they were making their way into the complex. They forced their way apparently into the complex and shot at the guards. And most of the time, they're around the clock actually, they're armed guards who normally man that entrance. And they shot at them as they forced their way, and they detonated some or hurled some bombs into vehicles that were close by. The ones that we showed earlier in flames as they made their way into the hotel complex. And of course, that was, as you would expect, to create confusion. And the Inspector General moments ago just telling us that he believes this is over 3 hours on after the attack, that some of the attackers, armed assailants he described them, may still be holed up in the hotel complex. And the different security teams that have been, the specialized teams that have managed to gain access into the hotel are still in exchange there. Not too long ago, Kennedy Mijungu, he gave us an account there saying that there was still some rounds of, you could hear some gunshots from where he was. And so it is still an active situation at the Dusit Hotel as the operation is ongoing.
It certainly is, and we're unable to verify whether those gunshots are controlled or not.
Yes.
The likely case is that they are, but that cannot be confirmed. However, a blast that was heard at 5:29 this evening was a controlled blast that took place. The reports that we're getting is that the attackers arrived using a car with the number plate KCN340E, and that another vehicle advanced further in. As you said, Mark, they forced their way through the security gates and shot at the security guards. As we said, the complex is heavily guarded with 2 barriers that you need to get through in order to access the building. They then hurled explosives into vehicles in the parking lot before making their way into the Dusit D2 Hotel, which does house offices and also the hotel itself. And this is the sequence of events, because according to eyewitnesses as well,
yes,
the explosions were heard first, before then lots of gunfire was heard. Soon after that, the police did check in, and a number of police teams, including the Recce Squad, the Flying Squad, Anti-Terrorism Police Unit, and the Bomb Squad as well, all responded to the situation. So an extremely high-powered team, because this is a potential terror incident, according to the Inspector General of Police, who said that they do believe that it may well be a terror attack. As you said, Mark, it is still a very active situation, because police are still in the vicinity. They are still looking for armed criminals who are believed to be holed up in the vicinity. And also, we still don't know how many civilians have managed to flee the scene or be vacated from the scene. Earlier on this afternoon, we did witness evacuations taking place, and there you have some pictures on your screen as well. But there is a high possibility that there are still a number of civilians, people who work there, people who were visiting the location, who are still stranded.
Yes, and that is why it's well cordoned off, and will be a bit into the night as they try to make sure that the area is very well secured, as one of the armored vehicles there making their way into that complex. As you can see there, that's a bit earlier, as it is getting a bit darker right now, being 6:23 right now, and this is well over 3 hours after the attack. And we can confirm there have been injuries, but the Inspector General was quite cagey with the details. Some quarters quoting that this perhaps is an attack, a terror attack, and the IG just giving his version as armed assailants who having attacked this hotel, the Dusit complex, and they were suspected to be terrorists, and they claim that these situation is being managed. And of course, right now, not a lot in terms of witness accounts, and understandably so, just to give them the opportunity to make it to a safe place and safe space that they can get first aid attention. Right now, as they're understandably traumatized, and not to get into their space of getting what could have happened right now. But we'll be able to get their accounts and corroborate that with what the security officials are telling us in terms of what is happening. Right there, just to clarify, that was an injured man who was being rescued by the security officials earlier and taken to safety. And just to remind you, if indeed you are within the area, you don't have to make your way there if it is going to be a complication given the heavy traffic snarl up right now. But if you are within the area of the Avenue Hospital in Parklands, please do make your way there and give some blood and donate some blood for those who will be admitted there. But the numbers that we have right now is 4 at the Aga Khan, but that is expected to increase. But because right after getting that update from Zainab Ismail, who's manning the situation there, we had an update from Ken Mijungu, who could tell us that some were being taken into ambulances to nearby hospitals. And yes, the officers are also, trying to alert the people to stay clear, not just to help them work around the situation, but because there could be some bombs in the area, because there was a car.
Not been detonated.
Yes, and there was a car that was, laced with explosives, and that was the one that at 5:29 they were able to detonate. So that's the main reason for your safety, and that they could be able to work with a bit of order. Everyone, as is the situation in such situations, in such conditions, would want to see and take a picture or take a video. If you can, please make your way home, and we'll be able to give you the account from where we are. But we do appreciate some of the those online who, like Robert Luther, who gave us an account earlier as it was happening, as the gunshots were going on just after the initial explosions, giving us an update with the people making their way out of the hotel and the office park there adjacent to the Dusit 2 hotel.
We also had a verified account from our former colleague and journalist John Alanamu, who happened to be along Riverside Drive. He then shared his first eyewitness account with us. And with regard to emergency services, the Red Cross, Kenya Red Cross emergency services have been on the ground all afternoon. They haven't, in fact, released any official numbers at the moment, so we are waiting for those with regard to the situation about the casualties and the type of injuries that have been sustained. But we are keeping an eye on that, and we'll bring you the information as and when we can. All right, let's take you back to the ground. Live on location is NTV's Ken Mijungu. Ken, what can you tell us now?
Right, guys are going down once more because there are gunshots that we're hearing. In the last few seconds, we just had about 5 gunshots from inside, something that has been happening for the last few minutes or so. And it's not yet clear where these gunshots are coming from, because basically we have been pushed very far away. Even where we're standing, we are safe because we're about 200 or so meters away from Dusit 2. So when we hear the gunshots, Meti, we are unable to tell where exactly they're coming from. But what we know for certain is that the gunshots are from inside, and that's about not the only update that we have for you this evening, because in the last few, we've had a few more people being brought out safely by the security personnel from the hotel or from the office blocks, because again, that's not clear. And also in the last few minutes, we've had Weki squad coming in special cars such as this that are armored, and they've been getting in there. So we have additional personnel also getting in, and obviously the operation is still on, and the police definitely trying to get over and done with this as soon as they can, because as the dusk sets in, it's also worrying because there's a lot of people here, and depending on the amount of work that is still inside there, definitely they have to work around the clock to ensure by when darkness falls completely and this place is engulfed in darkness, at least they shall have done some substantial work inside there. Still very scant information from where we are from inside. I'd just like to go over the updates we have in the last 1 hour or so. We've had about 4 times that we've had gunshots from inside there. Just few gunshots. The most of it was about 7 gunshots. Not clear. Earlier before that, we had one specialized car living here, and we were told that perhaps one of the suspects, one of the people arrested inside there could be a suspect or could just be someone who had firearms. He was driven out of this place. We also had information that another one had been arrested. We've also had a lot of reinforcement, including from a chopper from the Kenya Air Force that has been circulating all over this place and reinforcing security. A lot of civilians are still stuck on the other side. We don't know the number, but basically the officers that we know are here, the workforce perhaps could go over 2,000 people who work around here. So until all of them are out, it's not yet clear how many of them are still remaining. The good thing is earlier on they managed to get a lot of people safely out of the danger zone, and we know that they are still struggling. The police, which comprise of all the security personnel in this country, we know all of them are here. We've seen the Record Squad, we've seen regular, we've seen GSU, and they have all gone in, and definitely the reinforcement from the medical team who are conducting the rescue mission. We still have a lot of people communicating online and trying to get as much help as they can, because it's not clear where they are and at what time they'll be getting out, but the police are working around the clock to ensure that even the people who are remaining here are getting out safely. And as I said, there's about a group that got out in the last few minutes who have been taken out. So that's but all we know is that by the minute there's a lot of reinforcement that is still coming in here, and the police are trying to do the most they can to ensure that a lot of those people get out safely. And of course, if they can still try and arrest the people who are in, because the operation, we understand, they can still spot those attackers. And right now, I'll just get off the camera. There is one person who is being wheeled out now, and they are alive, but there's a lot of shock. I spoke to a lady earlier who worked in one of the salons who tried to describe to me what she saw, and she said the shooting began outside after the explosion. The shooting began right outside just before the attackers walked inside the hotel, and there was a vehicle that apparently had a lot of phones in it, and the anti-bomb squad was attempting to get to see what was inside that car. The lady that is just being taken out is injured, has a lot of visible injuries, but she's one of the people who have been helped out, at least alive, and we're glad she's being taken to the St. John ambulance, just one of the ambulances that have swarmed this place, trying to get as many people out and giving them first aid. Most of them have been taken to hospital around the CBP, especially Avenue and Aga Khan Hospital, where their relatives and friends can get their details. So, as we mentioned, that's also a young man who's just walking past us, who's also managed to get out safely. So that's basically what's happening here. A lot of air response, a lot of efforts being put in here, a lot of reinforcement. But Smitty and Mark, that's about all that we know right now. The gunshots going off about 7 minutes ago or 10. We will try and get as much information as we can for you, and as soon as we have it, we'll definitely be telling you. But for most of the time, it looks as though things are under control, because it's calm, except for occasional gunshots that, as we said, we don't know where they're coming from, but definitely from inside here, and we don't know who is shooting, because that information is not available to us. Back to you, Mark and Smitty.
Thank you. Kenny Jungu still at the 14 Riverside Drive next to or close by the Dusit D2 Hotel where the attack has been. As you continue following up on the updates there, it was good to see a lady there being rescued, being wheeled to better help and safety. Glad to see that she is alive and quick recovery to her, as well as the others. You have a split screen there earlier of that situation on the ground at the scene, as well as Avenue Hospital, one of the hospitals, nearby hospitals that are receiving those casualties. And yes, there will be a number that will be increasing, and that's why there's been a special appeal, especially from this hospital, for those who can make their way easily to the Avenue Hospital to donate blood to aid those who are getting treatment. No numbers of whether or not anyone has passed on, and we certainly don't look forward to such numbers. And the IG Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, did not make any reference to that, but did say, sadly, regrettably, there are those who have been injured, and he wishes them quick recovery. And he's saying the situation is being managed. Well, with the update right there, I believe that is a situation being managed. There are rescue officers there from some of the institutions. AMREF, we have Red Cross who've been on the ground helping people who are there, even civilians. Always good to see civilians who are helping people under distress, and even as well in the rescue operation well earlier before the security units made their way to the Dusit D2 Hotel. And yes, it is still active because it is believed that the armed assailants who are suspected to be terrorists are still holed up at the hotel apparently, and this is why there is still a heavy deployment there of police who are engaging.
All right, let's now take you live to the Avenue Hospital where some casualties have been admitted and where there is an urgent blood appeal. NTV's Zainab Ismail has shifted location from the Aga Khan Hospital now to the Avenue Hospital. Zainab, give us an update.
There, but so far the information that we have from here at Avenue is that there have been 9 casualties that have been transported here. One is an expectant mother, one is in critical condition, and for the time being the hospital is calling for a blood donation to help with the casualties that have lost quite a number of blood. They're also calling for the staff who are away at this particular point to come and help with the treatment of those that have been brought here. Now, we also understand right at this moment, one woman has already been discharged. She had minor injuries during that attack incident earlier on today at about 3 p.m. So we have 8 casualties now remaining, and we understand one is in a critical condition. 4 others are at the Aga Khan Hospital near Westlands. This is just a few minutes, meters away from here at the Avenue Healthcare. But of course, we'll be taking a look at the other hospitals around this area and the casualties that have been taken to these specific places.
Zainab Ismail coming to us live from the Avenue Hospital. Thanks very much. Zainab can clarify that at that hospital there are 8 casualties. There were 9, but one person has already been discharged. Another person is in critical condition, and one of the casualties is unfortunately an expectant mother.
Yes, sadly so, but we wish quick recovery as she gets attention there. Again, the appeal being repeated. If you can make your way there without the hassle of the traffic that is expected within this area, if you live within perhaps Westlands and you can access the Avenue Hospital at Parklands, or if you live elsewhere that you can easily access that hospital, please make your way there. And they definitely will be helpful to get some blood donations there. And yes, something that will be the big question in many people's minds as to who is behind this attack. Again, KG, as was the Inspector General of Police, but already in different quarters, and even other media houses already quoting that this is an attack from the terrorists, and something, of course, that we would want to be very clear and careful about, but it has all the writings of this. And you quoted something earlier, Smriti, that it is coming at the 3-year anniversary or commemoration of the attack in Garissa the worst attack in Somalia, actually. And in the worst attack, yes, beg your pardon, in Somalia, in El Ade, beg your pardon, there has been an attack in Garissa University and as well as Westgate. And just apparently just the other day, just yesterday, there was a release of one of the suspects behind the Westgate attack that left 67 people dead. And this, of course, some media houses quoting terrorist outfits and militant groups claiming to be behind this attack.
All right, earlier we did hear from the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet. He held a press briefing from Jogoo House. He did regret to confirm that at about 3 p.m. Today that a group of armed assailants did indeed attack the Dusit complex in a suspected terror attack. He also said that security and emergency forces immediately responded to the incident and they cordoned off the area, and we certainly have seen that as well. He says that the situation is...
Can't sleep, afraid to leak. Up all night, turning left and right. I need a better night. Always at night, locks liquid in. Unlike tissues that stain through. No stains, no check. Up to 8 hours. With always my nights are better. With always my mornings brighter. What a good morning. Stay happy always.
Always. Quality brand by P&G.
What do you want your baby to become?
Every parent desires to have a healthy and successful child. It is important to note that this starts before the baby is born. Preparing for a safe delivery is an important step towards having a healthy baby. Therefore, you should prepare for a safe delivery by doing the following. Discuss with your partner on how to prepare for a healthy baby. Start saving early and organize transport that you will use to go to the health center. Go for antenatal care as advised by the health worker and deliver at the health center under a skilled health worker.
Give your baby the best start in life by delivering at the health center under a skilled health worker.
Feeling my whole world is changing. Woke up, I was feeling down, but now I'm not complaining. Thanks to my 3 lucky numbers, you too can win if you enter Super 3 and feel super like me. I'm feeling super. Zen is super. I'm feeling super. Zen is super. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Timeline is brought to you by
Everywhere You Go. Settle in. Let's color. Go TV. Live it, love it.
Are you one that runs multiple social media accounts? I have some good news for you. Instagram is planning on letting you share your stuff on multiple accounts at the same time. And imagine an app that will detect that you're taking an overdose and send an alert to the authorities and people that care about you to make sure that when they can come to your rescue, and when they come to your rescue, they know what to do. I tell you, innovations. My name is Akuri. Welcome to the Timeline. Instagram is adding the ability to let you publish a post to multiple accounts at the same time. The feature is going to be available to all iOS users, but there is no word yet on if or when it will come to Android. When the option to self-regram becomes available for you, it will appear when you're about to share a new post. Underneath the options to tag people and mark your location should be post to other accounts, which will let you toggle onto where else you would like to publish the post. This could be a time saver for a lot of people who run multiple accounts. There have been rumors in the past of Instagram testing regramming from other accounts to a user's main feed, but the company ultimately said it was not building or testing this. However, it did introduce resharing on stories last year, and I remember we did a show on regramming. We taught you how to regram. Instagram is also testing an Android shortcut for importing photos from Google Photos. Instagram has not given a timeline for when the iOS self-regram feature will be completed and rolled out completely, but some users should see it as an option very, very soon. Now imagine a smartphone app that can detect overdose and call for help. Now in America, over 110 Americans are dying each day from opioid overdoses, which makes opioid epidemic the deadliest drug overdose crisis in the US history. What is opioid? This is the misuse and addiction to prescription pain relievers or heroin. Now, a doctor by the names of Rajalakshmi Nadakum, definitely sounds like he comes from somewhere in India. He is a doctoral candidate in computer science at the University of Washington. He has come up with a solution idea. He has built an app called Second Chances that gives a smartphone the ability to detect an opioid overdose and alert others for help. The app is still in development, but the researchers hope to have it approved by the US Food and Drug Administration and eventually sell the technology. So here's the problem I have with this new innovation. The app is Second Chances, which is a cool innovation. The problem is this app can only be activated by the user. It doesn't run in the background. So when you're going to take some medicine, you have to first switch it on and then take the medicine, and then it can detect the overdose. So I am thinking, I am going to overdose myself. Why do I want an app that is going to report me? That's the only problem I have.